welcome to our monthly webinar. This month, we're planning to talk about talent acquisition and customer acquisition. As you guys probably know, I specialize in customer acquisition for collision repair shops and auto body shops. And I'm happy to have my friend Jason come on today with us as a special guest. And he specializes in talent acquisition for collision repair shop and auto body shop. And what I'm going to do basically is this is going to be a really free flowing conversation. It's not scripted. We're just going to have a nice talk. If anybody on the call here has any questions, feel free to either throw them into the chat or unmute yourself and ask them. I think I gave you that ability here on the call to do that. So feel free to ask any questions. More than happy to answer them. And also, if there's anybody that's listening to this recording and has any questions, feel free to reach out to us either on Facebook Messenger, on our email, on LinkedIn. Jason and I are both there, active on both those platforms. So anyways, Jason, I think I'm just going to kick the ball into your court and let you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, so military and special operations for 6 years. Fell in love with the teamwork and the mindset in that realm for those 6 years. And of course, before that, I ended up leaving there to go into talent acquisition, and where I fell in love with the psychology behind it and really the truth of how it works, where a lot of people get stuck on the finding aspect. Like, how do I find more talent? Where do I find those special people that you hear about? Why can't I get them? And how can I develop people into that, even though I'm so busy? Like, I don't even have time to put all that effort in to developing someone to become that way. And I took a whole different approach into it. When I first got into the realm, I was lucky enough to have the leeway to test my own theories using the psychology, human nature, everything that you kind of learn in the special operations realm. And it worked like a charm. And it worked with actual change, not just in the way that you got people by tricking them or doing anything like that to get them to come join your team. So dove into it, found out the method that I use is more of the art side of talent acquisition instead of the science. And how there's a science and an art and everything, in which in turn you use the science of the art in that sense. And then you figure out this program that I haven't seen fail yet. And really the way to think about it is, if you guys have ever, participated in online dating of today, it's kind of crazy. It's so much different from what we had in the past. But in a shortage market, which is where this specializes in this talent style, is consider it kind of like online dating, to where the body shops are the guys in the online dating world, and the good talent and the skilled technicians are the females in the online dating world, to where you have to become really attractive. You have to become something that they want to be a part of, because every body shop is reaching out to all the good talent that's out there, and they're getting bombarded by messages all day long, every day. Come work over here. Here's a promise I'll make to you, because if you come over here, my profits will increase this much, which means I'll eventually be able to do what I'm trying to do if you come over to my team. And it's a whole lot of that going on, from all body shop angles. And it just doesn't work. They kind of just ignore it now. And they're just sticking to where they are because they don't want to keep jumping around to different shops. And so the way I tell people to start the approach is, first, stop looking for technicians. You got to stop trying to find them. Although it seems like a desperate time, like my shop's going to close down if I don't get this next technician, or if I can't find an A-level technician. But it's going to just keep getting worse and worse if you focus too much on that finding aspect. The first part you got to focus on is the leadership inside of the shop. So when we approach shops that are looking, I always ask, well, how fast do you need a technician? If they tell me it's a week to 2 weeks, so they need one immediately, I basically say our program won't work, because I'm not willing to put my name on the line to vouch for that company and say it's a great place to go, a great shop, to that technician and then to jump over and be like, hey, Jason, you told me this was a different place. This was a better place for me to go to. You lied to me. And eventually that word's going to get out, which is what happens. Which is what's happening in the industry right now that's causing the shortage with such a high turnover rate across the board. So when it comes to talent acquisition, first, you got to work on your mindset inside the shop, a mindset that you remove all that victim mentality and only be a problem solver. Then we move into the aspect of teamwork. Start being the one that's leading from the front, showing what teamwork actually looks like. So the painter and the technician stop fighting each other. So the estimator and the technician stop fighting with each other. You emulate that. And the only way that you can is if your mindset's solid and that it can't be broken to where everyone just wants to emulate what you're doing. Then you work on leadership, on how to influence the people that can fit your culture in your organization already and the vision that you want to go to. And those who you can't influence, that's when we start working on finding the best people in the industry, because those people will stay once you get them if you offer those three. And from there, a whole lot goes into finding through social media and stuff. But I think a big aspect to bring here is a lot of places aren't looking at themselves first before they go look elsewhere. And I think every shop we talk to, no one ever across the board, across the industry, I haven't found many shops. I've found 3 in the last year out of the 80 that we've talked to that first addressed their own issues before they started looking for the person to solve their issues for them, if that makes sense.
Wow, you packed a lot in there, Jason. So if I'm hearing you right, you're saying that for an collision repair shop, an auto body shop to really attract the right talent, they need to look inward first.
Yes. Because if you look at the industry as a whole, we're at a 40% turnover rate. It's one of the highest in every industry in the country. Even in the blue collar realm, it's the highest. And the reason why it's the highest is because there hasn't been a structured training development program inside of the shops. It's been chaos. I mean, the collision industry as a whole is one of the most chaotic, most difficult businesses to run. It's very rewarding. It can be very rewarding, but there's so many angles that you're being attacked with at the same time. You have your talent, you have your insurance that you're fighting it, you have your customers that are only coming to you when there's a problem. There's no happy customer that's shopping because I got a raise type of thing. Maybe sometimes with a paint job, but there's so many negatives coming in at once that it's already a difficult enough industry as it is with the culture and the leadership that goes inside the shop, which will cause a turnover on its own. And then we don't have a structured and training development program to appease this generation's instant gratification mind. So they're going to get a turnover from there. And then we also don't have the mentorship to teach this next generation, or even my generation and your generation, that's heavily motivated as well, what it really takes long term to get to where you need to be. And so that the whole reason why we're in a shortage situation is because no shops have done any internal type training as a whole on an average. I shouldn't say no shops, but across the board, that's what's caused it.
Very interesting. So let's just flip this up a little bit. Let's say I'm a technician and I am looking for another shop. I'm currently working at Caliber. I'm just picking on Caliber because they're because I can.
They're the
And
biggest. Yep.
why not pick on Caliber? So let's say I'm working at Caliber and I am interested in moving to another shop. From your experience, what are you hearing from technicians saying that this is what they want? This is what they're looking for. Give us an idea. Do you have any of that insight? Like, what are they looking for? Um, I don't know. Do you have an answer to that question?
I do. And it's a pretty big answer because each technician is searching for something a little bit different. Now there is across the board, they want to be heard. They want to feel like they're actually valued. They You can actually see a lot of technicians are posting their jobs on the internet just because they want someone to say good job. Literally, that's it. They just want to hear that the work they just did was pretty good. They're not hearing it inside the shop, right? It's just next car, next car, next car. Um, and we all get caught up to where we don't go and give that praise. And so in general, across the board, all they want to be is feel valued at an A-level technician. Now, how do you show that value? Well, you pay them a bunch. That makes them feel pretty valued if they're getting paid well. That's why a lot of them will jump for $2 more. A lot of the times it's not for the $2 more. It's for the this person thinks I'm more important. It truly is. And but across the board, they all want something different. I'll hear a technician say that they just want to work for a place that wants to fight against insurance.
Mhm.
And I'll take a pay cut for that. I just want to be able to do the work the right way, the proper way, and I want to take my time with it. And so they want to search for that type of shop. Then you have technicians that
Mhm.
just want to make as much money as possible. Right. Well, there's shops available for that. And then you have technicians that want to learn and grow, a big majority. There's a lot of B-level technicians out there that claim they're A-level technicians, and they're really in just search of a place that will train them up to be an A-level technician so they can feel like they're a leader inside of the shop. Um, and then you just have technicians that want consistent work where you come in a lot to bring in to a shop that's just going to be consistent to where they're not worrying about season by season if they're going to get let go or if their hours are going to get cut or if they're not going to be able to you know get hours every day of the week. So it's different for every single technician that I find out there, estimator,
Mhm.
manager. It's all very different, but across the board, what we see 80% of the time, it's really just because they want to feel like they're important or valued.
Interesting. And that was something we tend to think. So if I flip roles a little bit here now, let's say I'm a shop owner. I think we tend to think that money is the biggest player typically in this, but from what you're observing, is that's not necessarily accurate. It's not just money.
It's not, it's hard for me to say it's not even close to do with money because the economy is rough. It's becoming more and more important. But I would say it's one of the lower factors of importance when it comes down to it. And now money becomes such an issue because it's the only way it seems to be a business owner knows how to communicate with the technician. So it's the only way the technician knows how to communicate back. It's not like the technician has leadership experience or communication experience on average. The business owner does. And what they're always thinking about, the shop owner, the manager, what's on their mind all the time is margins and numbers and all that type of stuff. So that's what's being communicated. It's in a logical sense. But on the other
Mhm.
side, it's in a logical, it's in an emotional sense that you need to translate into logic to understand the bigger picture inside of the shop. So then you can communicate with the language of a business owner or a shop manager to where they'll understand. But in order to do that, you first have to appease into the emotions, I guess you could say.
That is fascinating. I think you are onto something there. We all like to think we're very logical people and we make logical decisions and we make decisions based on information. But from what I understand, people that have studied this a whole lot more than I ever have, that we actually make very emotional based decisions and then we try to find logic to back up those decisions.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I'm hearing you say about these technicians. So from the shop owner's side of it, if I can build culture and build strong leadership where people feel valued, that's going to definitely help my talent acquisition. Probably, you would think it's got to help your talent retention as well. Then, because if they're not just staying around for money, where they actually like to come to work and they actually feel valued and they feel they're part of the team.
Yeah.
Very cool.
It's
So, sorry, go ahead, Jason.
we've it's proven in other industries going this route or focusing on this route first. And then we've been in this industry for about a year and a half. I mean, we've worked in shop environments before and everything. And it's been proven super successful throughout this year. Every shop that we've partnered with, zero retention issues that they've had moving forward with it. And then of course being able to find the people, because once you get the retention issue solved, you're able to then have a consistent, as long as they have a continuous flow of cars coming in, as you know, you're able to have a
Mhm.
consistent profit to plan off of, a
Right.
consistent number. And then once you get that number, you're able to then invest in the training, so you don't have to spend as much money on finding a new technician, let's say. And then you're able to also take that money and push it into finding the next best person to replace the weakest link on the team, as bad as that sounds, right? It's the name of the game. And then you keep them there. Now you can plan for the future all the time. You can invest in new equipment. All you're doing is making it more and more appealing to be the shop to go to work for. And eventually, those margins become so big, the issues that you have to deal with the ups and downs because you're losing talent, you can actually then start paying your team more, making them even more happier, because throughout the year, your number at the end of the year is going to still be higher than that profit margin that you're trying to play with in the ups and downs, by trying to pay people a little bit less so you can kind of make up for some losses that you've had recently or whatever it may be. It just becomes a cat and mouse game until you work on yourself first.
I have a couple questions here, Jason, that I'd like to hear an answer for. And so if I own a small shop, let's say I'm just a small operation, maybe a few body techs, a painter, an estimator, shop manager, what is the best strategy for me to attract top talent? Because I could probably play this game in my head where I can't compete with Caliber. I can't compete with Joe Hudson or whoever the big MSO in your region is. I can't compete with them for pay. I can't compete. Maybe my
Like the
customer
sign-on
flow is
bonus.
up and down, or yeah, whatever you probably know better than I do. What is the best strategy as that kind of small shop operator? What's my best strategy?
It really depends on the small operator's vision. If they want to grow, it's going to be different on how they want to attract or find someone that's aligned with that. Or if they're just trying to run a family-owned, good culture shop to serve that community and really be a part of that community and win throughout that community. So I'm going to go address it as if you're that smaller shop that wants to stay small and boutique for the
Sure.
community that you're a part of. Well, the first thing that they have to do, that anyone's going to care about in order to compete with the pay, is they got to first focus on customer acquisition. You have to first compete with the bigger MSOs, the Walmartification, basically, to make sure that you're getting enough cars coming in and that it's a consistent amount. Because the only way you can relatively get good talent when you have the big MSOs all around you is to come close to paying the same. Right? You may not be able to say you can do a sign-on bonus, even though you can, and I can talk about that after. You have to at least be able to advertise and have a way to pay relatively close to who they are if you want A-level talent. And the only way to do that is to make sure you have enough cars coming in for them to work on to give you the profit.
Okay.
And really, I actually like to toss it back to you on that one. I don't know if the people listening or who's going to watch this recording later has heard your strategy, but I've personally worked with you, or I'm going to be working with you moving forward for shops that have the talent, but now they're looking for the work. What would you do for that small shop in that scenario to get them the cars coming in order for me to go focus on the talent per se?
Right. Great question. I guess basically what I would do, and obviously this is very situational as far as what that customer acquisition looks like. Is the shop a DRP operation? Are they largely independent from DRP? So there's a lot of variables in there. But I would say one solid strategy for a small shop owner that's looking to grow their customer acquisition is ensuring that they are ranking number one when people are searching on Google for collision repair shops, auto body shops. And obviously here again, that's very situational. Let's say you're from a town of 5,000 people in the middle of the Midwest in a very rural and you have one or two shops. Well, their search engine optimization is really not very necessary unless you're trying to hit up maybe some outlying communities. But let's say you're in more of a metroplex or in a city where you have 100 shops that are all competing for the same keywords. That is where I would say for that small shop owner, this is something that they can do to leverage their online marketing to make sure they're getting in front of those people that are searching and doing research on shops. I know, I mean, as we all know here on this call, that we have insurance that is steering work.
Yeah.
We can't, you know what, it is what it is. Unfortunately, there's not a lot we can do about it, but that online marketing does help give them a leg up in helping to combat that. So that's one thing that I would say to a small shop owner. So I don't know, does that answer your question, Jason? I know it's just kind of a couple minute version.
Yeah, it definitely does. I know a lot of shops will go DRP to try to take care of that, or get on a DRP, I should say, to take care of the customer acquisition side of things. But for some, it still doesn't work because, from what I understand, you get into an accident as a driver and you call your insurance and they give you a list of shops. Well, I'm going to Google the shops in my area first and compare it to that list. As a customer that doesn't know anything about how the auto body industry works, or how those estimates are written and negotiated, that's how I would do it. So I think it's a big challenge for some of the people we work with on showing them how serious it is to get the SEO on there. So I kind of wanted you to say that so I could show that to them, on how important to get the SEO is, because people are still using Google even if they're DRP.
Right, right. You betcha. Now, Jason, to move this conversation forward just a little bit further, we talked about the small shop owner. What's the best strategy for talent acquisition? I had to think, what is the best strategy then? Let's say I'm a multi-shop owner, I'm an MSO, let's just say a regional one, maybe anywhere from 2 to 10 shops. What is some best strategy that you would recommend in that situation?
Going after the big group of people that are out there in the collision industry that want to be a part of a growing organization. And by doing that, it would be social media for sure. So at that point, usually when you're hitting that many shops, the customer acquisition side of things is pretty set down. You have a pretty good program in place. And oh, I don't know if I just came off the screen there. Okay, there we go.
I can still see you.
You have a pretty good program in place already for customer acquisition. So at that point, you get on social media to bring awareness to what you're doing and what your shop's doing. And as an owner, you want to get on the camera, which I'm telling you, it stinks. It stinks to do. It's not fun. You get judged across everywhere. It takes 50 takes on a video to get one that looks like you're not silly into it. But people want to follow people now. They don't care about brands as much. Now, the vision behind a brand still might matter. The purpose behind it, the values that that brand brings matters, but they really just want to follow someone that they can admire, someone who has made it past the one shop organization, which is very, very difficult to do in the collision industry. So if you're able to be that good of a business person and take it on and go get multiple locations, a lot of technicians out there admire that and they want to be a part of that organization. And they also, technicians don't want to do the same job for 45 years anymore. They're not thinking like the older generation, the boomers, to where I just want a peaceful job, 9 to 5. I get in there, I do my 40 hours a week, I put into a 401k in my retirement, and then at 67 years old, I dig into my retirement and my social security, and I go live in Florida peacefully on the beach. That's not this generation. It's not even our generation that cares about that. We care more about our purpose and value that we bring. And so they want to get in, learn how to become a technician, break records. They truly care about that. They want to break the records and then they want to get promoted to teach the next generation and then become a manager. That's why the big MSO takeover that's been kind of happening is a little bit easier for them than it should be, because everybody wants to be a part of something that's growing, that has steps every 4 or 5 years or every 10 years even, that can take you to a new position that makes you feel more responsible and valued. So that can be pretty simple for a 5 shop location, to where everyone can't be a manager. There's only maybe one regional manager, and then there's the maybe COO and CEO. You still can create extra duty positions with a little bit of a pay increase to appease that desire. It can be as much as, well, now you're a lead technician. You're no longer just the A-level technician, you're a lead technician that we're going to pay a couple extra K for a year for you to advise people when they need help. And then from there, you're a lead technician that is developing a training program for the team. And they'll do that on their own time at home. I promise you, I've been watching it happen. They will go home and sit for 4 hours at night developing a training program on the steps that are required, using all data and all these other documents on their own time, because it's appeasing the purpose.
Very interesting. That makes sense, though. 100% makes sense. Well, I don't know, Jason. I feel like we've covered off a lot of ground here. Obviously, talent acquisition is not my specialty, but I feel like I have learned something. I'd be just kind of curious to hear if Diane or Ricky, if you have any questions, anything that came to mind while we've been talking. And if you don't, that's okay too. I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
I'm also
Jason,
wondering,
was there anything else you wanted to cover off, or?
I would like to answer if you guys have any questions first. But I do have, talking about the bonus, I hear a lot from independent shops and everything, how they can't compete because they can't do a sign-on bonus. So I actually wanted, Ricky or Diane, do you guys ever feel that way? I don't know where you guys work or anything, but do you ever feel like it's kind of an unfair advantage, people offering sign-on bonuses? They probably got a phone call while they're on the call. No one collision shops, right?
That's all good.
I'll kind of touch base on it anyway, because
Yeah, go ahead, please.
I hear a lot about, I can't do a sign-on bonus, like all the big MSOs nearby with me. I'll get someone on and they leave me in 3 months, and then I just lost all that extra money. Well, the way a sign-on bonus really works in the corporate world is it's not just upfront money. In it, some of it may be, but usually it's paid out through 3 months, you get a certain amount, or in 6 months you get more, 9 months you get more, and at the end of the year you get the rest of it. Or it's paid out through paycheck on an additional amount on each paycheck. Some will do it up front in the beginning, and I'll tell you right now, that's extremely cost efficient just to get someone in the door. Because if you need someone inside of your shop, you got to think of it from this way, and it's a business mindset to where, like, let's say me going to SEMA or us going to SEMA, we see that as that's going to cost me $5,000. No, you're going to SEMA because you're going to make $15,000 because you're going to network and get a new partnership. It's the same thing with collision technicians, to where right now I have 140 hours worth of work a week that I could be doing if I had a technician here. So it's not costing you $5,000 sign-on bonus to get a technician interested to come inside your shop. It's earning you $10,000 more a week in profit alone by paying that $5,000, if that makes sense. But even if you don't have that upfront money, if you're really struggling at that point, that bonus can be set up to where you say, if there's a $20,000 sign-on bonus that's paid out throughout the year, and that technician, if they're the right person, is going to pay themselves that bonus by the money that you'll be bringing in profit that you would not have without them anyway. So you might as well just put it out there to compete, because it's supply and demand. Business is all about supply and demand on the customer acquisition side and on the talent acquisition side. And right now there's a high demand for talent and a low supply. So you got to pay extra for it. and that requires you to maybe do a sign-on bonus, just structure it
Mm.
out throughout the whole year. And let's say that technician comes on and they end up pumping out 140 hours a week for you with quality work with little to no returns. Well, pay that bonus off early if you want to make them happier, show them that you really value them coming into the team. Just kind of feel it out to see if they're the type of technician that's going to get their bonus paid and then jump to the next ship. It's pretty quick that you'll be able to realize that kind of personality within the first 90 days. So
That makes sense. I see I see where you're or yeah, the angle that you're looking at that from. It's basically investing into getting them in the shop so you can start getting your production back up. Obviously, get your cash flow up.
because then
Yeah, it's great.
they pay for themselves at that point.
100%. 100%. You betcha. I guess probably as we wrap this up, Jason, something that I had thought about is how can how can I take what you've just talked about and told us about today and start applying it in my shop? Is there what is like, let's say I forget everything else. What's that one big takeaway that I should take away to my shop here this afternoon?
It would be, it's almost in like a relationship type of sense too. It'd be to take some time at night and ask yourself, would you want to be someone, would you want to work for yourself? If you were a different generation with different problems, put yourself in the shoes of technicians you've seen in the past, sit back and say, am I someone that I would even want to work for? And then address those problems first. And I know it's going to be very difficult because you need the technicians to be at peace inside of your shop type of thing. But you have to do it first. And it's going to be one of the hardest parts. And then start addressing those things. And then at the same time, in tangent, start looking for technicians at the same time, but do it slow. Hire slow, but be ready to fire fast and never stop hiring. You can never, ever, ever stop hiring. Customer acquisition, operation, and talent acquisition are always a cost of doing business, all times of all a part of the throughout the year. And the reason why I say that is because in order for you to be at peace and to perform with the vision that you have as an entrepreneur or a business shop, is you have to have standards in place inside of your organization. And when there's a shortage of technicians, the techs will start to create that standard, not you as a business owner. And the only way to maintain it is to have people in the pipeline at all times to replace them when the time comes. If they're not on board with your vision in the company, you're the one who took the risk. You're the one who gets to set those parameters. And when you as a leader inside your shop has a standard that's set, but yet a new A-level technician that's really earning a lot of the revenue inside of the shop starts, everything starts catering to them. Other people inside the shop are good, their morale is going to go down. You may end up losing a whole team. So you have to cut that cancer out before it spreads. I know we hear that term a lot. And the only way to do that is by having someone or a bunch of people to reach out to 2 weeks before you let go of that person, to have them walk right into the door so you don't have to change your production and screw other people over or have to cut some of your overhead, which is really stinks when you have to do that. So if you would take away anything from this talk is work on yourself and then never stop hiring, even when you find that person. Use the profits that they're helping you bring in to consistently be recruiting and consistently be putting people through leadership training, putting yourself through some leadership training or mindset training, and building that teamwork, using those profits to invest in doing cookouts, cut early a little bit on Friday, build the culture. You have to put the time into it. Although it doesn't seem like it's an ROI effort, like there's no return on investments on this cookout that you're just going to go spend money on. You're going to lose production and you're going to be paying for it. It's all very much worth it in the long run. It may not seem it short term, but when you look at your numbers long term, if you were to do it, you're up. If you look at it as an investment, you're up 50% compared to before, you're only up 10%.
Very
If
true.
if that made sense the way I worded that. I
You
know I
know what,
rambled.
that made a lot of sense. So what I took away from that was that I, one thing I need to do is go away and look at myself and really try to discern, am I somebody that I would want to work for? And then if that's not right, work at correcting that and start looking for talent, obviously, but really start working on the culture. That's an interesting. I don't know that I would have necessarily expected that answer, but I think that makes sense.
It's just like on the customer acquisition side of things, you can't go after it when you're slow. You have to do it while you're busy, right?
Right.
And then you can't turn it off when you're super busy. You have to keep it coming. And the same thing applies with talent. The time to be looking for the right people is not when you need it. It's before you need it, when you're secure,
Mm, mm,
because we can't do things out of desperation. We,
mm,
as
mm.
much as people don't believe it, we emitted energy. We truly do. There's an energy about every person. And as much as you're good at faking it and manipulating and playing those games, which a lot of CEOs of shops, they're smart. They're very, very people smart, very data smart. It's outstanding. And they're so talented that they can get away with it for a little while, but the colors and the energy shows, especially to blue collar professionals. They can sniff that crap from a mile away as soon as they get the PTSD reminder per se from a previous shop. And so you got to work on that self first. As spiritual as that may sound, it's true.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, that makes sense. I obviously, like I said, you have much more. I mean, you're specialized in this, and you've lots of experience with this, so it makes sense. Though I appreciate that. Well, hey, Jason, I would say unless you have more that you would like to share, I think we're basically here at about 40 minutes in. Um, I'd be ready to wrap this up unless you've got something else you'd like that's really burning on your mind that you'd like to share yet.
I don't think I have too much left. I feel like I jumped around a whole lot with it. It almost feels like we should do a customer acquisition, talent acquisition basics one, you know, in the middle and then advanced, and maybe like a step-by-step process to take them both. Because a lot of people don't understand customer acquisition and talent acquisition are they work hand in hand. You can only have one or the other with the other. And so, yeah, I know that's probably not the right time to be talking about that, but
That that's okay. That's fine. You know, we did cover a lot of ground, but I hope Diane, Ricky, and anybody that listens to this in the future, I hope you get a lot of value from it. And there's just a lot of things going on here that we can take away. I think Jason's has given us a lot of value here of things that we can do. And if you have any further questions, I know Jason is more than happy to talk personally with you any way that he can help you. I'm sure he's more than happy to try to help you and give you resources, whatever he has to help benefit you. Um, Jason, I'm sure I'm not speaking out of turn there to say that you're more than happy to assist in any way you can,
oh
whether
yeah,
it's a small shop, a big shop, whatever it might be.
100%. I'm here first for the industry because without the industry, of course, none of us have a job. And then second, my own personal vision and everything. So always here to help. I might not be able to help 8 hours a day, but I'll help 15 to an hour, 15 minutes to an hour in a week if you need it.
You betcha. Right on. Well, I appreciate you guys coming, Ricky and Diane. And Jason, thank you for coming on this workshop today. Appreciate you taking your time. I know it's taking time out of your day. So appreciate it. I think I'm gonna end the call here in just a moment.
I appreciate you having me on, Daniel. I'm excited
You
to see you
betcha.
at SEMA.
You betcha. Right on. Take care, guys. Bye bye.